The career women. Darry and Diva were the best of friends. They lived on the same street, attended the same school, and loved playing together. Their mothers, Mrs. Katrina and Mrs. Rhoda, were also close friends. They worked very hard, often leaving for work early in the morning and returning late at night. Darry's mother promised him an iPhone if he came first position in his class. Darry was excited and worked so hard. He avoided playing with Diva, focusing on his studies instead. Diva teased him, but Darry didn't give up. Finally, the day arrived, and Darry came first position in his class. He was overjoyed and couldn't wait to show his mother. That evening, Mrs. Katrina returned home from work, exhausted. Darry ran to her, waving his results. "Mommy, mommy, see!" Mrs. Katrina was shocked and proud. He hugged Darry tightly, promising to buy him the iPhone the next day. True to her words, Mrs. Katrina brought home a brand new iPhone 11 Pro Max. Darry was excited and immediately showed it to Diva. Diva was amazed by the phone and begged Darry to let her play with it. Darry agreed, and they spent hours playing games, watching cartoons, and surfing the internet. One day, while browsing, they stumbled upon something strange. "What's this?" Darry asked, confused. Diva shook her head. "I don't know, but I think it's for adults." Darry's curiosity got the better of him, and he clicked on more links. Diva warned him, "Darry, I don't think we should be watching this." But Darry was too engaged. Days passed, and Darry and Diva continued to explore the strange content. Diva had an idea. "Let's try what we have been watching." Darry hesitated, but Diva convinced him. They tried it. It was painful at first, especially for Diva. Darry apologized. "Let's not do this again, please." Diva agreed, but the next afternoon, after they are closed from school, she convinced Darry to watch the content again. They tried it again and it became a secret habit. Their parents were too busy to notice what was happening. One afternoon, Mrs. Katrina returned home early, feeling sick. As she entered Darry's room, she was shocked and frightened by what she saw. "What's going on here?" she screamed, trying to process the scene. Darry and Diva looked up, guilty and scared. Mrs. Katrina immediately called her friend, Mrs. Rhoda, to come over. Mrs. Rhoda came and was equally shocked and disappointed. The two mothers were confused. The two mothers confronted the children, who confessed everything. The mothers were heartbroken but determined to find a solution. The two mothers, Mrs. Katrina and Mrs. Rhoda, sat in the living room discussing what to do next. They were shocked and disappointed by what they had discovered. "How could we have been so blind?" Mrs. Katrina asked, tears in her eyes. Mrs. Rhoda shook her head. "We have been so busy with work, we neglected our children." They decided to take the children to see therapists to help them deal with what had happened. The therapy sessions were difficult, but Darry and Diva slowly began to open up about their feelings. They realized that they had been misguided and that their actions had consequences. The therapists helped them to understand that what they had done was not acceptable at their age and that they needed to make changes. Darry and Diva began to rebuild their friendship, but this time on a healthier foundation. As the therapy session progressed, Mrs. Katrina and Mrs. Rhoda realized that they needed to make changes too. They had been so focused on their career that they had neglected their families. They started to prioritize their children's needs spending more time with them and listening to their concern. The family began to heal, and the relationship between the parents and children began to strengthen. But just as things were starting to look up, Mrs. Rhoda dropped a bombshell. I have decided to relocate to another city, she announced. I think it's best for Diva and I to start afresh. Mrs. Katrina was shocked and saddened by the news. She knew that Darry would be heartbroken to lose his best friend. She tried to persuade Mrs. Rhoda to reconsider, but her mind was made up. The families said their goodbyes, and Diva and her mother left for their new location. Darry was devastated, but he knew that he had to move on. Darry watched as the truck carrying Diva and her mother's belongings drove away. He felt a mist of emotions, sadness, loss, and relief. He was sad to see his best friend go, but he was also relieved. As the days went by, Darry struggled to adjust to life without Diva. He missed her so much, but he knew he had to move on. He threw himself into his schoolwork and extracurricular activities, trying to fill the void left by Diva's departure. Meanwhile, Mrs. Katrina was trying to adjust to her new role as a more attentive mother. She had realized that she had been neglecting her son's need, and she was determined to make it right. She started attending school events, helping Darry with his homework and spending quality time with him. As the months passed, Darry began to heal. He made new friends at school and he started to enjoy school activities he had never enjoyed before. He still missed Diva, but he knew that he had to move on. One day, as Darry was waiting for his mother to pick him up from school, he received a surprise package in the mail. It was a letter from Diva along with a small gift. Darry's heart skipped a beat as he read the letter, tears of joy streaming down his face. Darry, I miss you so much, Diva wrote. I am sorry for everything that happened. I know I was wrong to convince you to do those things. I promise to never make the same mistake again. I hope you can forgive me and that we can still be friends even from afar. Darry's heart swelled with emotions as he read the letter. He had missed Diva terribly and he was overjoyed to hear from her. He quickly wrote back, forgiving her and telling her how much he missed her too. As Diva finished writing the letter, he felt a sense of closure. He knew that he and Diva would never forget what had happened, but he also knew that they had both learned valuable lessons. They had learned that their actions have consequences. As the months went by, Darry and Diva continued to exchange letters. They wrote about their daily lives, their hopes and dreams, and their struggles as well. Darry was happy to see that Diva was doing well in her new school and that she had made new friends too. One day, Mrs. Katrina had an idea. She suggested that Darry and Diva meet up during their school holidays. Darry was so excited at the prospect of seeing his best friend again. Mrs. Katrina contacted Mrs. Rhoda and they arranged for Diva to come visit Darry for a week. The day of Diva's arrival finally came and Darry was bursting with excitement. He had missed his friend so much and he couldn't wait to see her again. As he waited at the airport, he saw Diva's smiling face emerge from the crowd. They ran towards each other, hugging tightly as tears of joy streamed down their faces. The week that followed was full of activities. Darry and Diva spent their days exploring the city, trying new foods and laughing together. They talked about their experiences, their fears, and their dreams. They reflected about old times and made new memories. As the day of Diva's departure approached, Darry felt a pang of sadness. He didn't want his friend to leave again, but he knew that Diva had to return to her mother and her new life. As they stood at the airport, hugging each other tightly, Darry whispered, "I will never forget you, Diva. You are my best friend forever." Diva smiled, her eyes shining with tears. "I will never forget you either, Darry. We will always be friends, no matter where life takes us." Years went by. Darry and Diva grew up. They went to different universities, made new friends, and started their own careers. But they never forgot the lessons they learned from their past. Katrina and Mrs. Rhoda shared their stories with other parents so they wouldn't make same mistake. "Don't abandon your family for your career," they warned. "Your children needs you and your family is important. Remember, a successful career is not worth losing your family." Thanks for watching. Like and share this video if you enjoyed it. And also subscribe to this channel. Turn on your bell notification so you get notified when an amazing story like this drops. See you in the next video.